You guys ready? Okay. All right. We're counting down. 5, 4,
I forgot how to use
3,
it.
2.
Good evening. Welcome to the Echo Chamber and the OSEC meeting on July 26th. We'll start with roll call. Mary Rogers. Here. Glenn Fieldman. Here. Aaron Becker.
Here.
Jason Noonan.
Here.
Barbara Ebel.
Here.
And Michelle Salmons is perhaps joining us later.
Did you get everybody that is here?
Yes.
Okay. So we need to consider a request of a committee member, sorry, that got copy and pasted to city council member, to attend the meeting remotely under the emergency circumstances of AB 2449. Michelle contacted me a very short while ago about a family member with a contagious illness and will hopefully be joining us via Zoom later. So we'd like to go ahead and ask the committee to consider that request. I'm not certain, but I think you need to vote to approve her request for her to officially be able to join the meeting.
I move to approve Michelle's request.
Second.
Yeah, I second that.
Second.
Adrian, could you repeat the request? There was a horrible echo.
Sure, sorry. Michelle called me a short while ago to let me know that she has a family member with a contagious illness.
That part. It's
And-
the earlier part.
The earlier part, what did I say before that? So we have the ability to attend remotely under the emergency circumstances
Right.
of AB 2449, which is what we are considering. So the committee needs to vote to approve Michelle's request to
Got it.
participate remotely under the just cause provisions.
Got it. Thank you.
So I believe we had a motion from Aaron and a second from Shauna.
Yes.
So go ahead and do your roll call vote, please.
Okay, Mary Rogers,
Yay.
Glenn,
Yes.
Aaron Becker,
Yes.
Jason.
Yes.
Barbara.
Aye.
Shauna Calmes, yes. The motion carries. All right. So is Michelle now joining us remotely?
I move we adopt the agenda.
She has not yet joined and was uncertain when she would be able to. So we're doing that kind of preemptively in the hopes that she will be joining us at some point in time.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye out for her and we'll announce when she has joined.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to adopt the agenda for this evening.
I move we adopt the agenda.
I'll second.
The addend-
You need to vote.
Roll call. Mary Rogers,
Yes.
Glenn Fieldman,
Yes.
Aaron Becker,
Aye.
Jason Noonan,
Yes.
Barbara Ebel,
Aye.
Shauna Calmes, aye. The agenda has been adopted. Are there any announcements for this evening?
I will actually make one, which is a bit more complicated by our challenging video setup this evening, but we do have participating remotely this evening our summer sustainability intern, Jana Broglie. So she will have a staff update to share, and she will be joining us in person at our August meeting to present on her work this summer. So sorry you aren't able to see her, but I look forward to you meeting her next time. And I thought we might, if we can do this, allow her to, just give a brief introduction to all of you. Jana, go ahead and let's see if we get the audio.
That sounds great.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
We can. Yeah, you
Great.
guys can hear her okay. Great. Go ahead, Jana.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jana. Like Adrian said, I'm the sustainability intern for the city of Brisbane this summer, working with Adrian. I'm currently a rising sophomore at Northwestern University studying environmental engineering. And so far this summer, I'm learning a lot of really cool stuff about city legislation and energy efficiency So I'm having a great time and excited to meet you all in person next month.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you as well.
I have an announcement.
Yes, Glenn has an announcement.
So just a brief announcement. This committee and the city council voted a few months ago to support SB 252, which will require the state's big pension funds to divest their fossil fuel stocks. And I just wanted to give an update on that. It did pass the Senate again for the second year in a row. It got held up in the Assembly again, although in a different way than it did last year. Last year, a single committee chair in the Assembly killed it without giving it a hearing. This year, the committee chair punted and made it into a 2-year bill, which is, there are many arcane procedures at the California State Legislature, of which this is one. Bills can transmogrify into 2-year bills from 1-year bills. So long story short, we believe there's going to be a hearing this fall, and we're getting ready for that. The Los Angeles Times has published 2 editorials this month coming out swinging in favor of this bill, which is really quite surprising how emphatic they were. And the bill will then be then it will be calendared after the first of the year for hearings in the Assembly, and we'll see what happens at that point. Anyway, that's the update.
Thank you, Glenn. Are there any other announcements from any of members or staff? Okay. Let's approve the minutes from last month's meetings. Are there any changes that anybody has?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Oh, timeout.
We skipped over public comment, although
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
think it's just going to be a no comment situation. Oh, I do see we have Michelle has joined. I'm going to promote her to panelist right now, and she has her hands raised. So hopefully that was just to get my attention that she had joined. But Michelle, welcome. I see you are a panelist now. If you had anything to share under announcements or oral communications, you can do that now. In case you missed it, we did already address your remote attendance.
No, I just raised my hand to let you know it was me.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't notice right away.
And I may have to bag out. I'm waiting for a call from, okay. That's okay.
Yes, thanks, Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, was there anything in the oral communications? So that was
We have to
no.
adopt the minutes.
Move to adopt the minutes.
Second.
Roll call.
Barbara Ebel,
Aye.
Jason Noonan,
Aye.
Aaron Becker. Aye. Glenn Feldman,
Abstain because I wasn't here at the last meeting.
and Mary
Aye.
Rogers. Shauna Kelly's aye.
Michelle Salmon, aye.
Simmons. Yes.
And can you reiterate who made the motion? Sorry. Thank you, Jason. I'm not going to be able to tell on the video who said things, so make sure I get them in the minutes in real time.
Jason should be easier than the rest of us.
Probably.
Okay, let's proceed with old business. There's Quarry Development updates.
And I do have something I was asked to report back to you on last time. So let me find the right place in my notes. So at last meeting, we had discussed that the Quarry Development was deemed insufficient, their previous submittal. And there was a question on the table of whether that meant that they would require a new notice of preparation. And the community development director informed me that the deficiencies of the current submittal do not actually impact the project description for the EIR. So there would be no revised NOP. He also noted the draft EIR is expected later this year and will likely come before the Baylands, or at least they would not be happening simultaneously.
And I had a question on that, Adrian. Have they filed the new application?
Not that I am aware of, or I think I got this update a while back, so they hadn't at that point in time, and I have not been informed of anything since.
And we also had asked why it was deemed incomplete. And you were going to let us know what you found out about why it was deemed incomplete.
I don't have further information on that. There were technical items that were deemed insufficient, is kind of my understanding at this point in time. Not significant enough to impact the project description for the EIR.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from the members? Okay. I guess we will move on to new business. All right, we've come to the point where we are going to elect a new chair and a new vice chair. And the committee shall elect from its members a chair and a vice chair who shall hold office for a term of 1 year. No member of the committee may serve for more than one consecutive term as chair. The term of officers of the committee commences at the close of the meeting at which they are elected. It's been my pleasure serving as your chair for this last year, and I look forward to becoming a regular committee member again.
So I thought it might be a helpful reminder just to see who had been the chair. This was as far back as I could easily get in OSEX history, and I think covers the terms of most of the people up here, or perhaps one or two of you have been on a little longer than this. And then I also have on our next slide the recommended election process.
So I am going to call for nominees.
I would like to nominate Glenn since it seems like she's next up in the rotation.
Actually, I was going to nominate Erin since she's vice chair and hasn't served
Okay.
as chair yet.
I was going to second that, the nomination for Erin.
And I'd also like to nominate Jason for vice chair since he has not served yet.
I second that.
Oh, that's a good idea. That's another way to look at it.
Okay, I'm full of vice. Okay, yes.
I also nominate Erin.
Second?
Yeah, likewise. Aaron for chair and Jason for vice.
Oh, okay. Yes, okay.
So we didn't even let Shauna get through the process. But there have been two nominations, as I have heard, for chair. And then we will, after we determine the chair, we will move on to vice chair.
Yes.
Yes.
So there were two nominees, as I heard it, Glenn and Aaron. First, I think would be a question of accepting that nomination. Oh, that's correct. We need a second for both nominations.
I'll second Aaron.
I'll second Glenn. If she'll
I would
accept.
like to respectfully stand down because I've done it a couple times and I think Erin hasn't had the pleasure.
Excuse me.
yet. I was just telling her about our special investiture procedure and
Red liquid. Okay.
So at this point, we have one nominee for chair, which has been seconded, and one who has respectfully declined. Are there any other nominations for chair? In that case, Madam Chair, I think you go ahead with a vote.
Okay, we're voting for Erin Becker for our next chair. Mary Rogers,
Yes.
Glenn Feldman,
Aye.
Michelle Salmons,
Aye.
Jason Noonan,
Ooh, yeah.
Barbara Evil,
Aye.
Shauna Kelmies. Aye.
Thank you, Shauna. Excellent job for the last year. Thank you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. All right, and now we will proceed to vice chair.
Oh,
Before I do that, can someone tell me who was the first person to make the nomination?
Michelle?
I was. Mm-hmm.
And the second was?
I seconded Barbara.
Okay, thank you.
I seconded Glenn, but then she stepped down.
All right, I'm calling for nominations for the vice chair, which I believe was,
I'd like to nominate Jason Noonan for vice chair.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Wait, I thought I already had done that.
well, it was out of order.
Oh, thanks. Okay, no worries.
Now we're in order.
Snap. It was all nice until now.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, we voted?
Shauna's swinging the gavel on the way out the door.
Are we, is anyone else going to be nominated for this position? All right, well then, we'll have a vote.
Okay.
Barbara Evil,
Aye.
Jason Noonan,
Ooh.
Michelle Salmon,
Aye.
Aaron Becker,
Aye.
Glenn Fieldman,
Aye.
Mary Rogers,
Aye.
Shauna Kelmies, aye. Our new vice chair is Jason Noonan. Yay, thank you for your,
Oh, God. Okay.
once the majority elects a nominee, the election is over.
Hey, boo, boo.
We didn't have a primary, though.
And it didn't last a year. All right, on to our next new business, the Day in the Park booth.
Would someone from the events subcommittee like to kick this off?
I'll do it. Jason, Michelle, and myself and Adrian met regarding our booth and what we would be doing this year. Michelle brought in some samples of CD-ROMs, and we're going to make, I don't know what they're deterrents to put on the trees. So they're CD-ROMs that are hanging from fish spinners, and with the weight on it. So all the material is recycled.
Michelle, just so you know, I'm the only one that can see you.
Oh, okay. Well, then I can stop spinning it in front of you.
I forgot you missed the beginning of the meeting where we discussed issues with cameras in the room. So
No worries.
So it's really cool. It will be easy to teach others and the kids. And we're gathering old CDs. So if you have any at home, please hold on to them. And we'll be ordering the fish spinners and the weights. I think we were still kind of tossing around what we would use, and buttons came up. So we've got plenty of those as well. Right, and then we talked about all the different handouts that we will have during a day in the park. Yes, Glenn?
So I'm just wondering, I don't know how to do this, but I was just wondering, would it be possible to do something around heat pumps? Because this committee, is embracing low carbon things, and heat pumps are one of the things that people need to do. And I wonder if we could have some kind of exhibit display person to answer questions. I haven't conceptualized this very well, obviously, but I'm just wondering if we could maybe do something like that to try to plant a few seeds in people's minds. It's not glamorous, but it's pretty important.
Yeah, no, it is important. I agree.
What was
I mean, at the very least, we probably could gather literature, right? At the very least, and try and reach out. I wouldn't even know who to reach out to, but
So we do have a handout on home electrification that does discuss heat pumps. We plan to have that there, but that's like a one line in a front back flyer kind of thing. Well, a little more than one line, but one action item in a flyer. So it sounds like you're thinking something a bit more prominent, some kind of display. I'm not sure what that might actually look like,
Would it
but
be
I would
possible to
be,
get like one of those, like the outside part of a mini split or something, like the actual,
Yeah, maybe an actual object.
but
It would be good to have somebody there to talk about it if we could do that. And I have no idea who that would be. Is
I can
anybody-
talk a little bit about them. We've installed one. I've read a lot of the literature, so I have personal experience with one. I mean, I may not be the most technically knowledgeable person, but I'm happy to be an ambassador to whatever degree I can.
That would be great.
Is there,
I have two of them.
two people? Is there literature from, I saw in the blast or something, there's a rebate that's available from the county. Are those people, would they have a handout that we could?
there are lots of rebates available. I think, I'm trying to remember what was recently in the past, probably something from Peninsula Clean Energy.
I think
or
that's where I
was
saw
it Bayron?
I think Peninsula Clean Energy, if we get their rep to sit with
Yeah.
us, that would be awesome.
I mean, I can reach out to Peninsula Clean Energy. Honestly, they might just want to have a table of their own and perhaps we could be next to them.
Sure.
Because they probably have a lot of programs that they could be promoting, including used EV rebates, e-bikes,
Yeah.
a lot of different things that we would want the community to know about. So we should make sure that PCE's folks know about the opportunity to table here and encourage them to do that. So I can definitely put that on my
Glenn, does that
to-do
sound-
list.
And then Barbara could maybe talk about her
Yeah.
personal
Yeah.
experience and
Absolutely.
maybe answer questions.
I can do that as well because I've got a HVAC version at home and how many have we done now? 4 heat pump water heaters in city facilities. So
Great.
Good,
I
good.
can
Oh,
speak
this
to
is
it
great.
about as much as Barbara probably.
One other thing about that, do you know if has anybody compiled a list of all the rebates that are available? Because I think the cost is pretty scary to people without the rebates.
PC does have a pretty
PC does.
on their
Mike,
website,
Shana.
it pretty much tells about all of them.
I don't think we can hear you without the mic.
PC's website has lots of things that you can look up and you can see what their grid of rebates are for all the different projects and how they combine and then there's also the low
It'd be
cost.
nice to either then have a laptop or a flyer so that
Yeah,
could actually-
we can see what they have available. The flyer I have on the all electric homes does have some resources mentioned. I'm pretty sure Peninsula Clean Energy is on there as well as Bayren. And then the Switch is on. This is a statewide program that also covers a lot of various rebates and has contractor lookups and, kind of helpful tips and videos and things. So that's a pretty good resource. There's also state legislation from Becker about creating a one-stop shop to
I saw that.
apply for all of these things. So right now there's a lot of websites that have information, but you still have to go to all the different websites to apply. So I don't have any idea what the status of that legislation is, but I know it is out there.
So Cambridge, Massachusetts had a one-stop shop for this kind of thing 15 years ago. And I've been wishing and hoping that we would because it makes it so much easier for people. So I saw that Becker had this legislation.
So
Oh, yeah.
great idea.
FYI, I just looked it up. PCE is showing that you can get a rebate up to $3,000 to switch to a heat pump water heater.
That's just their rebate though.
Yeah,
That does
and
not.
get a 0% interest loan up to $10,000.
Yes, but that's just what's through PCE. So there's also a Bayren rebate for those projects and federal either rebates depending on your income level or at minimum tax credits. So there are a lot of funding sources that are now out there and available, and most of them can be stacked together. So yeah, I'll see what PCE has, and hopefully they're willing to come and table and we can be near them. And if not, perhaps they'll have some things that they can share with us to have at our table.
It's a great idea, Glenn, because there's some red meat there. You know, the spinner is great. I love it. The DVD thing where it's great, it's participative, but that's kind of more fun. And this is a more substantive, you know.
Absolutely.
Something else from Glenn?
Just one other idea. I still like this. A few years ago, we had a carbon footprint piñata. And I think it would be fun to do that again. And I think it would attract business to our booth. To lead them down the primrose path of looking at things like heat pumps. So I respectfully suggest to the committee that they look into a carbon footprint piñata. And I think, Adrian, were you here when we did that?
Yeah, I think she was just, no?
I was not here. I think it happened like a month before I joined or something.
Okay.
I started with the city in November, so
there wouldn't be a record of where we got it
I
from last
looked
time.
into it. I looked into it because it has come up since, and it seemed like it was a custom-made piñata that required a lot of lead time and a decent chunk of budget. And I think the event subcommittee talked about it a couple of years ago when I went down that rabbit hole to find out how we had done it before, and decided that they didn't want to spend that much budget on it. But I don't think it was, I think it was like $100 or something in that range, which is more than you would probably expect for a piñata. But,
Right.
you know, not that we wouldn't have the budget for it. So I think it's
Well, it's
up to the
committee,
committee.
but it's just an idea.
I just want to say I really like the CD idea. I'm sort of pulling us back for here a second, but I have made these before, and it doesn't take very long before the CDs start to delaminate. And then they're they're letting plastic like Mylar into the environment. So I might want to, if we're going to do this on scale with the public, might need to look at some sort of something, like maybe gluing two together or putting some like fixative on the back or something so that that plastic doesn't get loose, because it didn't actually take very long before they were kind of a nuisance.
Thanks, Barbara.
Thanks.
I think it's still a good idea. I think it's still workable, but I think there's something we need to address.
Maybe there's like a, like the spray lacquer that you could just spray on them, and
Yeah.
maybe that would hold them together better.
Maybe, I don't know. I didn't try any of that. I took them down and threw them away because I got miffed.
All right, thanks. We'll look into that.
Okay.
Any other things from the Day in the Park booth?
Yes, actually. The Dark Skies Subcommittee also discussed trying to use this opportunity for public input on the Dark Skies draft ordinance. So that's one of the reasons we had this on the agenda, because it's kind of a overlapping thing from two different committees. Would anybody on Dark Sky, do you want me to share my idea, or would someone else from the Dark Skies Subcommittee like to report out?
I think Adrian had something about a survey. Wanting to do a survey, but yeah, we all talked about we've been talking for a while about wanting to do outreach at Day in the Park and through the Star and the Luminary, and gosh, what else did we talk about? Who else is on that?
The library.
Yeah, the
think there
library.
was a-
I brought up the library. I
Yeah.
didn't remember that.
I think there was a fun idea in addition to a survey. So
Yes.
if I remember correctly, there's two ideas for Day in the Park. And one is if we get our act together as a subcommittee and have a survey, it would be good to have it available at Day in the Park. And then the second one, I'm going to let Adrian talk to because it was her idea she brought to the subcommittee, and
Sure.
it's a nice idea.
The survey, yes, I think it will probably take us a little while to get together, but I'm hoping we'll be able to launch it definitely by the beginning of October. So we would probably share it in the Star and the Luminary, and then just at Day in the Park, like have a link or QR code or some other promotion to encourage people to complete the survey, but probably not actually have hard copy surveys there or have that be the primary mode of getting the survey in front of people. So the more Day in the Park friendly idea that I had was to use this as an opportunity to do a little kind of post-it exercise with folks to share their favorite dark skies memories. So I was thinking back to being in Yosemite and sitting out on our patio with our friends watching for shooting stars, and how that, wasn't really very possible in the Bay Area, and just was a really nice experience that, I sometimes think of when we're having our dark skies meetings, and maybe, as some motivation. So I thought it might be nice if we encouraged people to think about what were their favorite dark sky memories. Maybe they have some from a kid or from trips or other kinds of things that get them thinking about, hey, you're right, I can't see that here, and I'd like to be able to, and is a bit more touchy-feely, but can get people excited about what the ordinance will help support, and be a little bit less focused on the actual details of the ordinance itself, unless people want to talk to us about it. And then, certainly we could do that.
Well, Michelle brought up the paper towel tube.
Yeah, actually, I brought it up, but I think I think it had been Michelle's idea from the previous meeting. So I think the idea is that if you look at objects through a paper towel roll, it helps reduce all the glare from other light sources. So things that you normally think of as too dark to make out any details, suddenly you can see. Someone brought it up in the recent subcommittee meeting, and I kind of agree that in the middle of the day, that's a little less useful of an exercise as, kind of the sunset or evening or even nighttime. But it is really interesting that the amount of glare that comes at you from the side affects what you're looking at straight on.
Thank you.
Oh, is it?
Could there be a way for people to send in their pictures and a way for us to, I don't know.
The funny thing is we actually talked about starting that at Day in the Park and then possibly transitioning it to a library thing as well. So there's
Starting what, pictures?
no, write down fond memories you have of dark skies.
I like that idea. Similar to the flags where the kids would decorate them and we would hang them up, we could do that with the Post-its. Maybe use 3x5 cards and people can write it down and then we can show it, hang them or something like that. I don't know.
They make some good
Sounds like
size
a
Post-its.
good plan.
Yeah, they do.
They
Yeah.
have big Post-its. Yeah.
We could also, for kids that are little, have them tell us and we could write it down for them and put their name on it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like,
that
what do you
sounds
see in the night sky? So it's a little interactive.
That sounds good.
I'm sorry, I kind of missed, what was the note card? It was just,
Instead of, how we hung up the flag when we had the decorate your flag, we could just get some 3x5 cards and maybe pin them up on a line so everybody else can take a look at them. I mean, what were we going to do with the Post-its?
I think
have 'em
Adrian had
stuck on the
suggested
wall.
like putting an
Okay,
easel
that's fine.
thing
Yeah,
up.
that's
Yeah.
same thing. Okay.
Kind of similar thing.
I easel is kind of the backup plan. I don't know if it'll, it won't be a huge space. I was thinking about trying to test out if they will stick, if we have Park and Rec give us a tent that has a back wall. If they'll stick to the back wall, that might give us a bigger canvas to work with. But yeah, easel is also maybe one or two.
Do you have any rolls of paper, like large rolls of paper? Because then we could just
maybe
hang the paper on the back wall of the tent and stick it to the paper. And then when we take it down, we can roll that up and take it to the library.
Yeah, I think we can do that. Probably someone in communications or Parks and Rec does. And if not, I have one for my kids' toy art easel at home that I'm not using very often. So I can bring that.
Okay.
That sounds great. Anything else for the Day in the Park booth? All right, well then, I guess that sounds like some good directions to move in. The tree inventory project.
So I'm actually going to have to switch the screen share for this item. Hold on for a second. Make it bigger, please. Okay, there we go. So what you are seeing here on the screen right now, and I have a couple separate documents to share, was also in your packet. It's project description or, description of services from a company called Planet Geo on a tree inventory services is kind of the first bit of it. This would be, is proposed for our city public trees, so street trees and those in public lands. And then also include, sorry, that was not the version that was shared online or with you. This was, wrong document. So the tree inventory is actually second in this, apologies. Tree plotter inventory, a tree tracking and management tool. And they also have a service to do urban canopy planning tool. So we received some quotes from them for each of these services. The tree. The tree plotter inventory. Sorry, that's not the right one. Here we go. Sorry about that. So the base tree inventory for their estimation of roughly 5,000 trees in the public space in Brisbane would amount to $35,000. We do have a budget of $40,000, so we could accommodate that, but we probably wouldn't be able to add a whole lot of other things to it.
Is that the OSEC budget or the tree subcommittee budget?
That's specifically for tree, what did we call it? Tree plan or urban forest plan?
Okay, thank you.
Yes, it's specifically for the line item that this would go towards, not OSEC's budget as a whole. So this would be a service. They would inventory all of our trees. They would cover all of these various characteristics of the trees, including a risk assessment. You may have seen that on here as an extra the level 2 risk assessment, that's kind of risk of tree failure or whatnot. And then we would have basically a database or file of all of these data fields on all of our public trees. It could be provided to us in a format that we could feed into our GIS portal. They have a service that they provide, a subscription service where you can use their software, which has some additional functionality on work history and photos and things of that nature, which is an additional fee. We may not necessarily need that because we do have our own in-house GIS system, and we also have an existing work order management program through the My Brisbane, where you've submitted service requests before. So this is something that I think staff's recommendation would probably be to not include this at this time and just have them do the tree inventory and use our own management tools. And then the other piece is the Canopy software. So this is also an annual subscription price. And this is, basically instead of looking at every single tree, you're looking at kind of aerial surveys and understanding what your canopy cover is, from that community-wide view. And you're able to, set goals for canopy growth, and there's various community input kinds of portals and opportunities. So not doing the greatest job explaining it. They had a nice demo that they provided Karen and I some time back, but I think this is something that in discussing with the tree issues subcommittee, there seemed to be a preference for focusing on that tree inventory. So we may decide not to go forward with this, but I wanted to show you all of the various options.
What are you inclined towards? What do you think is the best at your? Uh-oh, is that loaded?
Well, I'd love to let somebody from the tree subcommittee suggest.
Yeah, my personal feelings about the Canopy software was that it was really, really awesome, but I felt very reluctant to commit us to $5,000 a year. I felt that those eco dollars could probably be spent elsewhere. That was my personal feeling. I mean, it's got some like awesome bells and whistles, like, ooh, what a just like amazing fun toy. No. That was my personal take.
I have a question, Adrian.
Yeah.
How did they determine 5,000 trees, and what size trees are they talking about? And what area are they talking about covering?
Specifically, public lands in Brisbane. I do not believe there was a limit on the size of tree, and I believe that estimation was done kind of using their aerial, satellite photography.
Yeah, because the reality is, I don't think we have 5,000 substantive trees that they would be able to assess. I think that the number's probably a lot lower, and then we'd be more interested in, of course, all of the. When you say public lands, does that include public, like acres, open space, that type of thing? I don't know that we need to assess that quite as much as the urban trees, like in the areas where there are, like streets and that type of thing. And so I'm really questioning that 5,000 number. And obviously some trees would be on private property that they wouldn't be able to assess.
I think that's the reason they have the, it's the first one is by the piece, and 5,000 was
Right.
just kind of a ballpark, assuming that that there was 5,000, they had to start somewhere. And I assume if they only find 3,000 trees, then we're going to get charged for 3,000 trees.
I'm
Yeah,
going
that
with
was my
yes.
question. Do we have a minimum amount that we would get charged for? Or would they come and do the work and go from there? Like, what if there's only 2,000 trees that they end up working with?
And realize this is all of the city of Brisbane, not just central residential Brisbane or certain areas. It's all of the city limits. So that
Well,
is,
that's what I'm saying, is that I don't think that we need to do all of the city limits. I mean, I don't think that we need to do the acres that we own. You're talking city property, not private property?
yes.
Yes.
But we're
Okay.
talking about Bayshore Boulevard and Main Street and, all those areas that maybe we don't think about it. We don't hear as much feedback about.
No, I'm thinking about, the Northeast Ridge, the Crocker Industrial Park, the marina, the, central Brisbane. Wherever the canopy is important, we can, narrow the scope just a little bit to the areas we're most concerned about. If the $30,000 or $35,000 is too much.
Glenn?
I'm just wondering about the $30,000. I mean, because it doesn't cover private trees, which are an important part of the canopy. And it looks like the software for $5,000 a year might give us just as good an impression of the tree canopy and where it's missing. So I'm not on the subcommittee, so I apologize if my question is out of line, but I'm wondering if we could just do with the software to get an overview of what our canopy is. Do we really need a tree inventory to report on the state of each public tree in Brisbane? Just a couple of questions.
Barbara?
Yeah, I was about to mention that one of the really nice things that the canopy tool does was like one of the most exciting things the canopy tool was to give us an idea about trees on private property. So maybe it would be worth doing it for 1 year and sort of snapshotting that data. And if it comes to economizing on the tree inventory, and I'm willing to revise my opinion, but my initial reaction to the idea of economizing is that I would rather have a comprehensive inventory for the entirety of the city of Brisbane, but that I could see maybe talking to them and seeing if they're willing to just ignore trees under a certain caliper. Like, I don't know that we need to inventory like 6-inch, like little things that are like 6-inch in diameter. Maybe those, if we're looking for a way to kind of cut costs, that would be something that I would feel okay about. Up for grabs.
I will just say, to your point about just doing the canopy software for 1 year, I had a similar thought, and I believe in one of my conversations with the rep, they actually said that this is a pretty common approach because they only update the aerial surveys every couple of years. So you can do one, kind of review and set some goals and then, come back and pay for it again in 5 years and see how it's changed.
Okay.
Something along those lines. So I think that's a reasonable option. I am not sure I would necessarily agree every year we need that $5,000 subscription.
That was too much. I mean, like I said, we have limited eco dollars here, and I would spend them elsewhere before I would commit us to $5,000 per year in ad nauseum.
I did kind of like the basic level 2 risk assessment on some of our current trees. I think we've got a lot of stressed trees out there on the streets and public property everywhere. And we've as we've had many discussions about how many trees we've been losing and
Yeah.
we may be losing in the future, getting a really good idea of what might be a hazard so we can start planning to replace those trees before they fall and,
I think I need data.
And I think a lot of the information that we could get from their Canopy software, we could get similar impressions. Wait, can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can hear.
Okay. You could get similar impressions using Google Earth. And what I'm most concerned about is the health of our trees and assessing that, in particular, our street trees and our heritage trees.
I think that's what the tree inventory would do.
Right. And that's why I'm leaning towards a tree inventory, but also, limiting the scope a bit of it so that it's not every tree in the city limits of Brisbane that's on public property, but more focused on the problematic areas to assess those trees that we can actually do something to help.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I think that,
then
oops,
we
I'm
can
sorry.
also see if people in private property want to participate. And if so, $10 donation, we'll have your tree done too.
That's a mess.
Okay, I got questions from Barbara and Mary. Barbara?
I was just going to say, so I'm kind of feeling like I'm hearing the committee at large say that, we've got 40,000. We want the level 2 assessment. We want a year of the Canopy software. So that's 10. That leaves us 30,000 for the inventory. We just got to figure out how we can shave $5,000 off the inventory.
The Canopy software is $5,000, not
Yeah.
$10,000.
That's what I said.
Yeah, I'm not interested in the Canopy software at this point. I'm more interested in the base tree
Yeah.
inventory and the risk assessment.
The Canopy software is 5,000, right?
The Canopy software is $5,000. The
And
tree
risk assessment
inventory,
is 5,000.
yes.
So that gives us 10. That brings us to 10, right?
And we have a budget of 40,000, and we
Which
have
means we can spend 30 on the
tree
inventory. Oh, I was thinking the inventory was 35, and here it is right in front of my face. Okay, never mind.
We can do both.
Okay, we can do all of the above, but then with no wiggle room.
Quickly,
With
while we're
no
on
wiggle
this
room,
topic,
yes.
can you go back to the Canopy software page that you had earlier? Because I feel like they gave us 2 possible years. Yeah. 2 years, and then they
Comparison, yeah.
listed them as 2010 and 2022. So it sounds like they did one in 2022. So it might be worth thinking about if we bought it this year, it's probably going to be data from before all of our floods.
It's true. I'm also interested in having 2010 because I want to see how things have changed over time. Because, we're losing 2 big trees a month, and
How much does it cost
For-
to look at
for-
2010?
For $5,000, do you want that data that bad, though?
I think I don't
Maybe
think
not.
5,000
I
for
think-
our curiosity is not.
I think Mary had a question as well.
I just have a comment. I think it's money well spent because I think it's going to help us. The data will help us influence why it's so important, right? I mean, we can talk till we're blue in the face, but people
And
want to
have-
see data, right? And I think we need it. And I'm all for spending the whole 40,000 on this software. I really am. It's climate change is real and the trees are going to help tremendously. And I don't know, can we even use this data to possibly submit for grants?
Yes.
To get funding? Right. So you're going to need some hard data for that.
I think that's probably helpful.
Yep.
And then I did just want to clarify, for the $5,000 Canopy subscription, you get both the 2010 and the 2022 data. And I could certainly ask them if 2022 is specific or if they have newer data that they can use
So
newer than
it's not
2022.
another 5,000 for 2010.
No.
Included.
It is
I
included. So
misunderstood.
you're
Thank
you're
you.
seeing the change between those 2 years and then able to use the community engagement map and their software tools to say, here's how much we think we can grow our canopy, and you can set goals and find where are the ideal planting places, et cetera. So,
And you may be able to negotiate with them on the canopy software, given that the data is a little bit old, to throw in an extra year subscription. It's 5,000. A lot of software companies will do that.
sure. I mean, yes, I can ask.
It does not hurt to ask.
We have discount as opposed to a whole year. They're probably not going to dole that out.
I guess the question that we have is, do we also have an upper limit? So say they start counting and we do have over 5,000 trees. Do we just we just cut it off, or once again, do we say, don't count anything with a caliper of 4 inches or less, or what's our options with that kind of scenario?
I think we'll probably have to ask them about that and see if they. I would think that would be possible to say we only want you to do 5,000 because this is what our budget allows, and if it looks like you're gonna have too many, then let's not include the smaller trees. It seems like potentially an option, or considering if there's, we have other vegetation management work in the Brisbane Acres. If we want them to not include a specific area, we could approach it from that direction.
I think it'd be really important for us to prioritize areas and make sure that they're okay with us doing that.
Okay, Glenn had another comment?
I was just going to say, I agree with Michelle. I don't think we have 5,000 trees if we're worried about going over that limit. I think, excluding the Brisbane Acres, which really are intended to be primarily grasslands anyway, and concentrating on central Brisbane. I would like to include Crocker Park myself.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But, and
Yeah, there's a lot of risk.
I'm not sure about the marina, really. What do people think about that?
I think some of those trees are at risk, so I would do the marina.
Okay. Yeah, but if we limited it to those areas, it seems like we should be safe. 5,000 trees is a lot.
I actually think we could do the marina ourselves with some citizen science, because it's really obvious the trees that are sick there, and it's easy to count them. And we have it was all landscaped. So it's not like central Brisbane, and it's not even like the Northeast Ridge, which was also a planned development. The area that is most at risk is central Brisbane and Crocker Industrial Park.
Yeah.
And I would start with those two and then see how it goes and whether we can even take action on it before we moved out to Sierra Point, and also before we did the Northeast Ridge, because of that being a planned development where they're responsible for those trees, not the city of Brisbane.
Right.
And that would certainly limit
The number.
Yeah.
Erin, and do you have a
I'm going to
question?
step away for a minute. Sorry.
So my question relates to how special and precious Brisbane is. We are not a flat town in the Midwest. Do they understand that we have some hard geography here?
I think they're based in the Bay Area, though. I mean, they've done aerial surveys of Brisbane to come up with an estimated count. I'm not real sure
The quote included per diem and travel, so I thought that they would be out here looking at trees to do the risk assessment. I didn't think the
Yeah.
aerial was.
Oh, no,
you
no.
mean they're
coming
they should
up.
be-
Yeah,
Okay.
Yes. And he did note when he sent me this updated quote that our price per tree is a little bit higher because the cost of per diem in the Bay Area is high.
Understood. Okay.
So, I mean, I think I'm not particularly concerned about that. They gave us a quote.
Okay.
We asked them to come to this particular geography. They should hopefully know what they're getting themselves into.
That sounds great. Are there any other questions or comments regarding the software? Are we in agreement that this is a good thing to spend our money on? Do I have to make a motion about that? I mean, are we making a decision right now?
I don't think it hurts to make a motion.
I'm on the committee and I would love to make a motion.
As would I. I second that motion.
First, that's the second.
But what is the motion? Someone should actually say it.
Is to spend our line item budget to have a tree inventory done and to do 1 year of the canopy software
With the risk assessment.
with the risk and, making sure that risk assessment.
With the risky business.
Are you playing with the trees again, Jason? Are we ready to vote on that?
Yes.
Who's going to second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
Second.
Mary Rogers,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
Aaron Becker,
Aye.
Jason Noonan.
Aye.
Barbara Ebel,
Aye.
Michelle Salmons,
She stepped away.
She's away, so.
Away.
Shauna Kelmies, aye.
The ayes have it.
Fantastic.
Yay. We are excited
Staff updates.
to move forward. Next thing is staff updates.
Okay. Let's see. So my first item is that in her capacity as CEO of the chamber, Madison Davis reached out to myself and to our Park and Rec director to ask about volunteer ideas for a local company that would like to have a give back day. She just asked yesterday, so I thought I would pose the question to all of you if you have any suggestions. I believe there was another company that had in the past done a trash cleanup around Crocker Trail, but I'm not sure how possible that is. Their time frame is apparently through the end of the year, so perhaps if they wait until later, that could be after the trail paving project. But I thought I'd just see if anybody had any other ideas you wanted to share.
I, at one point, brainstormed an entire page of project ideas. Unfortunately, I'm blanking on that at the moment. But if I go home and dig through my old paper OSEC binder, I might be able to send that to you.
Please do.
I just walked the whole Crocker loop with the widening. They're pulling a lot of the trash out of those bushes already because they're cutting them back. So except in the area that was near where it's sometimes used as a overflow toilet, it's it's actually looking pretty good out there.
Quarry Road, there are a lot of trees that need to have the ivy
Pulled.
clipped so it doesn't kill them.
Ivy tree rescue sounds really good. And I'm sure if Michelle was here, she'd be jumping up and down.
I'm here.
There's
I'm
also-
back. Sorry, I had to step outside for a second. What was the question about the?
Companies looking for
A company
volunteer
looking,
opportunities for,
Oh,
I guess, for their employees. Is that right?
yeah, it sounds like it, a give back day for their employees for a local company in town.
So Barbara thinks she has a bunch at home. Crocker Park trash pickup has been, or Crocker Trail trash pickup has been proposed. I'm proposing either trash pickup or maybe it's an and/or, ivy removal, snipping on Quarry Road.
I think both of those are a really good idea. Or else I noticed that there's some ivy coming back in the canyons. And Firth Canyon's not looking so good, and neither is Costaños. I was up there just a week ago on both of those canyons.
How stable is Firth Canyon? Do we want volunteers in there?
It looks pretty stable on the flat part. You know, it's a kind of a mess, but you know, and then there's always ivy removal from trees, definitely. There's a lot of ivy on the trees, and it's hard to tell which ones are city trees and which ones are private trees.
How
all
about
around that whole area.
how about the trail going up to Buckeye Canyon? Because that kind of got destroyed during the storms, and I know it's starting to come back, but
That
maybe
area, we were just there on Sunday, and you can ask Adrian. Randy said no one's allowed. We don't want to sponsor a city event where anybody is in Buckeye Canyon because they still consider it to be somewhat unstable.
Okay, alrighty.
Yeah. But, you know, along the Crocker Trail, there are a lot of areas where there's broom to be pulled and garbage to be gotten rid of and that type of thing.
The one thing I did see is the gorse is still really awful on the back back of the horseshoe back on Crocker Park. It's just awful.
It's awful, but gorse is not something you send volunteers out to do because it will rip them to shreds. It requires special equipment to do gorse.
Yep.
You know,
Or
it's bad
goats.
enough to send them out to. I don't even know if goats will do gorse.
I think goats will do gorse, and at some point I would like to talk again about goats.
Here, here.
Yep,
We
I'll
should
second
do
the
that
goats.
because
Here, here.
that area at the back of West Hill is such a huge danger
That's
because
right.
of the gorse fire danger. Yeah.
Yeah,
But this is a tough time of year to pull broom because it's very dry right now.
could we
I think their
agendize-
time frame is sometime from now to the end of the year, as I understand it. So they could potentially
As
schedule
soon
it.
as it starts to rain, it's great.
So we have like 5 ideas, plus we might have 7 more?
Yep.
Okay.
Could
Yeah.
we agendize goats for some future meeting?
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I'll third the motion.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, like maybe next meeting?
What we should
What,
do though
what
is
about goats?
find out the cost of bringing in a herd for a specific area before we discuss it, because it would be really good to take care of certain areas of gorse that are potentially dangerous.
And make sure that goats really do eat gorse.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, because if I was a goat, I wouldn't eat it.
But there's plenty of other things for them to eat.
Also, this does seem to tie right in with the invasive species removal. So it feels like it's already an existing subcommittee business.
Yeah.
So if anybody knows where to rent goats, please email Adrian after the meeting.
That place right next to the Bay Natives has
Yeah.
a goat.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. Goat rental.
I was going to email Adrian Bay Natives after the meeting.
Yeah. It's not Bay Natives. They're right next to Bay Natives.
Yeah.
Are there any other staff updates?
There are. Quick ones. Actually, I know Jonna has a couple as well. So I will save the building efficiency program ones for her. On the SB 1383 and Cal Recycle side, we've had a lot keeping us busy. The Cal Recycle annual reporting is due on August 1st and looks like it's nearly complete. Sent some responses back today on some, I think, our final questions. So that's nearly done. And then SB 1380.
That's the organics removal, right?
Well, the Cal Recycle annual reporting is about all waste activities. SB 1383 is the requirement to have the 3-bin system and is mostly focused on organics, but does have some kind of requirements in there to have recycling too. Yeah, go ahead.
So I just thought of this, but I read a couple articles indicating that the organic waste requirements of SB 1383, I think that's the bill that we're talking about, may be suspended. And I am not sure what the reasoning for that is, but I think at the next meeting that we should talk about finding out who to send a letter to saying, don't suspend it, because it will be really hard to get it going again.
Yeah.
So goats do eat gorse, according to my phone. Let me look up and see if I can find something about suspending the compost requirement. I was really shocked to read that.
I'm wondering whether it might be something with the rural counties, because I know they're not enforcing it. I go up to Amador County constantly, and they are not collecting any sort of organics. I mean, they're not doing kitchen composting, and they get one little bin of green waste. But it might be really difficult in rural areas where people are taking their own stuff to the dump.
I'm sure it is.
But there's as far as I can tell, Amador County has no compliance.
So a couple things. First off, I know there was something a while back about some of the procurement requirements, which were dialed down and slightly delayed, because basically SB 1383 is a very large and unwieldy bill. It has put a lot of work on my plate that was not previously there. There is a provision to basically help to promote the circular economy that requires that cities procure a certain amount of products from composted materials, and it's based on the population. So some larger cities, especially those that don't have a lot of public lands, have these huge requirements for compost or mulch that they have nowhere to put. And just one small example of some of the challenges in implementing. We are actually in fantastic shape compared to most, because we have South San Francisco Scavenger, which has an anaerobic digester and provides RNG that their trucks run on. And that covers something like 50 or 60% of our annual procurement requirement, even when it kicks back into the full amount in the legislation. So that's one side of things. The actual law does not require that cities enforce it until 2024. Brisbane decided to start enforcing it earlier. There was a lot of lead time. This legislation passed in 2016. It's really started to be pushed out in a significant way in the last probably 2 or 3 years. So when we passed our local ordinance to bring the city into compliance and allow us to do the enforcement that we are required to do, we decided to make that enforcement in Brisbane start in 2023. Many cities, especially many jurisdictions, especially those that don't already have pretty wide-ranging services, probably did not make that decision, which is probably why if you go to rural counties, they aren't yet doing any enforcement. They don't have to until January. Glenn?
Yeah, so I looked it up, and apparently it is a state oversight panel that has recommended suspending the requirement altogether. And rural counties and cities' difficulties are specifically mentioned. So it's called the Little Hoover Commission, apparently, is the state oversight panel that's recommended this. I think we should, as OSAC, or maybe get the city council to write a letter saying if the law doesn't work, fix it. Don't just throw it out.
Can you send me that link, please?
Okay.
Yeah. I'm down with that. 7 years, people.
Yep.
We are well on our way. So the next piece of my update was to note that in my latest round of citations in the last couple of weeks, I had just 7 commercial citations to send out. And I sent another 9 letters to residents and 2 businesses for folks who hadn't previously, were kind of new customers or somehow or another had, not gotten notices in the past. So we're down to very small numbers of people who are not complying here. But I am very interested to learn more about what this little Hoover Commission is recommending. So if you can send that to me, I'll look into it.
Can I send it to you? I'm not on my Brisbane email right now, and I can't get on my Brisbane email right now. So
just send me the link. Just send me the link. Or come over at the end of the meeting and I'll
do that.
take it down from you.
Could you share it with the rest of OSEC after that?
Sure.
Cool, thanks.
So my last update was just to note that as part of the building efficiency program, we have an energy audit scheduled for the pool in a couple of weeks. We are still working on heat pump water heater projects up there. Once the contractors get some final approval on some architectural documents, we will be moving forward with a project to replace the water heater that serves the locker rooms with heat pump water heaters. I won't go into the details, but we got to build a shed on the deck to move them because of constraints around the internal closet. So hopefully that project will be moving forward in the next month or so. They want to have it complete by the end of the year because their program is going through a renewal process. So we want to beat that deadline. And the larger pool water heater project is still a little bit in limbo, but I checked in with my contact at PCE and they are moving a proposal for public funding forward to their board's executive committee and then full board of directors in August, it looks like. So I've been tracking that closely and we'll probably be going to those meetings to ask that they make sure that that program is going to help us get our water heater project done finally, or started finally, at least. So that's all I had. But I know Jana probably has a couple things on building efficiency program side, and Karen might have some things too. Go ahead, Karen.
Today I met with the representative from California Fish and Wildlife too. They wanted to audit their contribution to grants for the Brisbane Acres. And I was lucky enough to have Bob, I don't know if you knew this, Bob go out with me because he has great knowledge of, the plants, and he's got the mapping software because I think you all know there aren't property corners out there. So you're not sure if you're on this acre or crossing close to someone's private property or whatever. And I think they were overwhelmed with the community involvement, the state of the land, the fact that there wasn't any trash or any misuse of anything. Then Bob, lots of kudos to Bob for really telling a great story about all that.
Yay, Bob.
Yay.
Jana, are you still there? Do you want to give your building efficiency program update?
Yeah, hi. So just some general updates about the program. Today we submitted the 2022 annual benchmarking report to the state. 74 out of 100 of the buildings are in compliance, and we're working on getting the rest of those buildings in compliance. We're mailing out citations for those buildings this week. And as for the beyond side of the program, we received most of those report submissions, and we'll be sending out notices of violations for those not in compliance soon as well. So that's all going smoothly.
Great. Excellent.
And I will just add one more note since Karen just mentioned Bob. Jana and I also met with Bob today to talk about our building efficiency program map and doing an update to that. So we'll be able to see multiple years of data there. And our hope is to be able to share that with you at our next meeting. And that sounds like it's it on staff updates.
All right. Well, then we'll move on to subcommittees. And, well, we heard from the events subcommittee. Is there anything else that needs to be added into that?
We're good. We're good.
Okay. Education and outreach.
We're on summer vacation.
Okay. I could tell by it's bathing suit weather, right? Building decarbonization.
We haven't met, but I think we probably could. So I'm not going to take everyone's time, but if the subcommittee members wouldn't mind swinging by, maybe we can see if we can get a meeting on the calendar before y'all leave tonight.
The open space plan update.
We haven't met, and I know the subcommittee wants me to give them the
Data
documentation.
documents, yeah.
And it hasn't happened yet, but I've been having a lot of fun working on applications to the FHWA via Caltrans to get reimbursed for the storm impacts and to get reimbursed to clean out the storm drain system because it's full of mud. The city is going out for bids to repair it, but we are basically begging everyone to reimburse us for that. So I've been spending a lot of time on that because we just figured out, like, we can't wait for them to approve it first. We need to go ahead. So yeah, I don't know if that committee wants to try to meet soon. I'm still trying to put together the documents that you guys want. That'll fold into the actual plan we have. I mean, we might be able to just use the agenda report itself, the council agenda report, but I think you guys wanted something a little more targeted.
Well, do you think
I'll email the subcommittee and we can have a
that sounds good?
offline conversation about that.
Yeah, I'd like us to meet soon.
Next one is the Crocker Trail frog habitat, which I was walking along this morning and it was weed whacked. All of the cattails were taken down in the middle of the channel. And there was debris in the channel where there's still water and there's still tadpoles.
We saw
Kind of
your email
disappointing.
and I went back and saw that I did email the fire inspector in May, I think early May. And I didn't have an email back and now I don't remember if we had a conversation or I sent a follow-up email, like what happened with that. So I don't know if the ball was dropped in one place or another, but it might have been in response to fire asking them to do their weed abatement.
I still don't understand how a channel full of water is going to be a fire hazard.
Well, I think they broad brush say, in my conversations that I remember with the fire inspector, he said, along the sides of the trail where weeds grow, that should probably be cut down. But he didn't think the channel should. But I don't know if they send them, the letter that they send them is more generic. Did they send the letter this year? I know they didn't send it last year and nothing happened, so.
Do they
Still looking
notify
into it.
us when they're coming out to do this? I mean,
Clearly not.
Who?
or do they just,
The property owner to weed whack? their
whoever's
own
weed
property?
whacking, yeah.
It was it wasn't the city. Definitely not the city.
Okay.
So it would have been, did they get a letter on accident this year?
Yeah, okay, got it, yeah.
So I'm looking into it. I'll keep you guys posted.
Thank you. The invasive species, anything
Is that
else?
still on that? We just got what we hope is the final report from the Resource Conservation District just today, so we haven't had a chance to look at it. Want to forward it to you guys. We had asked for, on their draft, we had asked for a little more specificity about the fact that we want to allow stuff to be in the channel and it won't impact drainage. You know, you don't want to back up storm drainage and have a big slide or something. So they were adding some of that. And then we asked for diagrams, photos of all the plants that they're saying make sense to be in the channel. So they had added that. We just got it today, so you'll be seeing that soon.
Yeah, that's great. Maybe we can schedule a meeting so we can look at that and talk
You
about
know, let me ask, that cost around, I think it was $5,000 that we received in last year's budget. Was that granted again for this fiscal year?
Was that,
For the
rolled
frog
over
habitat?
or?
Not rolled over,
augmented?
because I'm assuming we spent that.
It's a kind of a weird process. this year because we were priority-based budgeting, and then the council wanted to see line items, and there's a new software for priority-based budgeting. So we were asked about projects we wanted to add and not about ones that were taken away. So maybe, but we have to check. We haven't seen the final document that got approved. So
Will we have the opportunity to see that again?
yeah, let us figure out what.
Okay. Thank
I
you.
don't think we paid the RCD. I don't think we've gotten invoiced yet. So
You know, with proper supervision, this cleaning of the channel or, might be a really good volunteer project.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know which business it is, and if they're close to that, maybe we could get them invested.
Well, earlier we were talking about organizations that were looking for volunteer opportunities.
Yeah, that's what I'm
And this
saying.
would be a really good one.
That's what I was agreeing.
Is there any other frog habitat comments? All right. Invasive species.
So I've gotten some feedback from the Public Works Director. Some of the earlier stuff we talked about, I walked him through, and then he took another look. I don't know. He said he wanted to talk to the Community Development Director, and I don't know. I have not heard if they converse, but a couple of things that he asked that maybe would be good for us to have another meeting to talk about are, is there any other agency that's doing this? How do they, how does it work? Is it effective? How do they enforce? And do we anticipate, how is our code enforcement officer going to recognize all of these plans?
A little flashcards.
So I think this definitely just warrants another meeting on our part. There's lots of tools and ideas there for sure. And then do you think, I assume it can go to the Community Development Director before we meet, even if we schedule a meeting now, because it probably won't be for a little while. So we'll have both of their feedback during that next meeting.
I thought we were going to meet with the council liaisons.
That's what it said in the minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, but first passing it through staff. We talked about. Oh, at the subcommittee, we talked about that. So I don't know what minutes.
But as you'd said.
The
about-
meeting minutes from the last meeting, it said that you would be talking to the council liaisons about it, next steps of how they were feeling.
I'm not sure the order in which we talk to the staff versus the council liaison really matters, but it is probably not a bad idea to get on there and get on everybody's schedule if we want to keep this moving forward.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm not
As you
sure
were
that-
saying, Karen, as you were saying about the remediation at Buckeye, et cetera, it's like, I don't know if we really want to wait until, we can meet there, but do we have to have all the answers on exactly what flashcards the enforcement will use? I think we're all kind of in agreement. We want to have this thing, and it's begun to take forever now, so if we could just keep it edging forward and we can meet and find out how we have flashcards or what agencies, et cetera, but we definitely want to have this. It's not gonna, that's not gonna change.
Yeah, I understand. Bob, when he was staffing OSEC 2, had done a little bit of research into who had ordinances like this.
Yeah.
And there's one in Ohio, and there was one in another state, and then there was a model ordinance somewhere else. And I think he sent that around as probably a prior iteration of the subcommittee. So
Yeah, we have like 6 different copies of other ordinances that we've used as kind of models, so.
Yeah, we have a bunch.
We
So
kind
that
of
we could
decided to go a
answer right
different
away.
direction though and make ours a very simple ordinance. So I looked at all those other ordinances when I was drafting this one, and but it was the consensus of the subcommittee that we wanted a really simple ordinance with a table. These are the species. This is the timeline.
Right.
This is, do not plant. This is must remove.
right, so that's part of the sale of it. If you pardon the expression. So maybe we meet one more time and put that together, that intro explanation. And then because if we meet with the liaisons, some of that staff, I think the public works director will be there and he's still going to make those comments. So, we want.
With respect, we have a table, we list everything. We could insert thumbnails of pictures of those things. That's how you will identify it. And we've said to each other, this is going to be people ratting other people out anyway. We're not going to have a guy with a notepad going around town looking at all the plants. It's going to be somebody's going to notice it and call somebody in. So I just don't think that's a big component of it.
Well, some things look close to other things and are
right, but we
not
can tell that to our public works person and say, this is how it is, and here are the 6 different ordinances in other places. Let's move this forward. Let's please move this forward.
Plus the plant identification apps.
Don't let me, I'm trying to help.
The plant identification apps that are now available are extremely good.
They're good.
Take a picture with your iPhone and know what it
Sometimes
is.
not so much.
True, but-
Yeah, they stumble on a few things. I have something in my yard that you can't get, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's not
mostly
ivy.
they're very
It's not going to stumble on English ivy.
It's
gonna
not going
gonna
to
be fine.
stumble on
It's
ivy.
going to be fine. It's another month kick down the road. It just makes me despair. So.
It's true. And we did pick pretty ubiquitous invasive plants. They're not, they're not really weird things. We picked 12 or 13 really kind of simple things. Pampas and Japata grass are pretty obvious, and ivy and
So whatever the next
Scabiosa.
step is, let's begin taking it. We can answer those things very handily.
Yeah. So it sounds like we need a subcommittee meeting. So let's get on the books after this meeting. We'll meet and pick a date.
I agree. Thank you.
Okay, I guess we're on to dark skies.
Dark skies.
Well, the last meeting we mostly talked about, we've already talked a little bit about it with under the day in the park thing. But basically we kind of outlined some strategies for public outreach. That was the bulk of our meeting last time. And there was one other topic we touched on, but I'm blanking on it.
I'm going to go all the way back. Actually, since the last OSEC, full OSEC meeting, we got the input from.
We met twice.
We've met twice.
Oh my God.
We got input on the draft the draft Dark Skies ordinance.
Yes.
From a consultant hired by the city who's a dark skies expert. And he had a lot of good ideas and let us know some areas where the loopholes would be too big. And so staff is now reworking some areas of the ordinance. So it's going to take a little bit longer, but it was a really important step. And I'm really glad that it was decided that we do that. So that's probably the big update for dark skies. And while they're doing that, in the last meeting, we met and talked about outreach.
Yes, you're right. I completely forgot we met twice. Thank you, Erin.
So what's the ETA? When do you anticipate? Sorry. Yeah, come on,
Staff.
guys.
$1 million
Staff,
question.
the ball is largely in staff's court right now. We're planning on meeting again in, I think, 3 weeks to go over staff's revisions. And hopefully, we just gotta, I feel like I'm kind of feeling Jason here. I feel like we've sat with this for about, I think I've sat with this for about 5 years. And I'm ready to cut the umbilical cord. So as soon as staff and legal signs off on it, that this baby is going out the door.
So there are still some things that are going to be up for discussion. And one of the biggest ones involves a map.
Yes.
In the interface areas, do they fall into the, special habitat zones, or, how does that affect the residents and businesses that are close to those areas? So we have to work that out in a way that's fair and equitable for everybody here, but also protects, the precious land in Brisbane. So there's still work to be done. It's not just look at track changes and hit accept or reject.
I guess I'm a little more being a little glib about it, because whatever's I gave my input and whatever's decided in the area, I'll sign off on just to make it happen before more More
I-
things
We have
get
a
put in.
recording of this meeting, right?
I think so, but tonight of all nights, I'm not going to promise.
I do know that I've been involved in a couple of different things and talking to other members of Brisbane, Brisbane people and saying, that one of the things we're working on is this dark sky ordinance. And everybody is like, thank God. I mean, I'm
Yes.
getting such really good feedback from other, they're like, there are too many bright lights, bright security lights. And even if having a few less of those doesn't really give us dark skies, at least I can sleep because they won't be beaming down in my bedroom. Yeah. And I think
Yes.
that's the other time. It's the more time it takes, the more people are going to put in those halogen spotlights lighting up all of our bedrooms, which is just untenable.
Yep. Yep. No, when I reached out on social media, it was like 99. Everybody was very, very supportive except for one person, and it's good.
So I will note that it does sound like, Julia, we expect to be able to get you back the next draft by the end of the week, as I had hoped. And there was something else I was going to say, and I just lost that train of thoughts. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we already basically, one of the things that we had discussed in our staff meeting, and I don't know if it was fully relayed in the subcommittee meeting, was the table that we showed you. We're going to probably just remove a lot of the text in that section and just make it primarily that table, and then an additional table on curfews. And so that, like, what looked really messy on the screen is actually probably not as complicated to really clean up as it might have seemed in the moment. So yeah, we are trying to get that to you by the end of the week. And I believe Julia has already requested Bob's assistance on mapping, and asked for that to be back a week or two before our planned subcommittee meeting. So yes, I know it's been a long process, but I do feel like we're getting really close.
Excellent. Thank you for the update.
Yeah.
And Adrian, I am at this point good for the August 28th noon meeting.
Oh,
Great.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
No worries.
And last but not least, the tree issues. We had a meeting, and most of what we were talking about, we brought back here. Barbara and I are working on the lists of recommended street trees and even private property trees to recommend for people to replace things that have come down.
Shauna's being too generous. I took notes and she said things.
And we actually looked at the original Brisbane list. We pulled the most recent San Francisco street tree list. We have Berkeley and San Jose. So we figure out, and we even looked at a few of the warmer climate trees from Southern California. So we're kind of trying to make all of that work for us. So we'll have a healthier tree population moving forward.
One of the things that is important to focus on too is making sure that they're not trees that drop things on the ground that people might trip on, and then 30 years later somebody wants to take out one of our big beautiful trees because it's spitting things.
Yep, that was one of our main, that we moved several trees from the existing Brisbane tree list because of debris problems. So we'll be getting an awesome list, I think.
Okay, good.
You guys asked at the subcommittee about the island at Mariposa in San Francisco. And there is
Alvarado, San Francisco.
Yeah.
Alvarado, sorry.
Yeah.
There is a purchase order and a tree company set to put a jacaranda in there. I think it's just scheduling, so it should be coming.
Great.
Yay, good. Super.
The jacarandas look really poor this year.
They do.
They did not fare well this winter. Some
They-
of them haven't even leafed out.
I think it's they're desert trees, so I think the water was a little hard on them.
And the fact that we had such a cool
Yeah,
spring and
cool
and
spring.
early summer.
I think they're going to bounce back next year, but we'll see.
Any further tree?
Just one note, thanks to Salmon for providing an article, which you will see in the Star here next week, I believe it should be out, on tree care and maintenance.
Great.
And thank you, Adrian, for editing it for me the next morning. Because it was definitely under the wire, wasn't it?
We got it in.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Good partnership.
Yes, and Michelle, did you want, maybe we could work on another one for a little bit later this summer, just so we can keep sort of, it doesn't have to be as big, but we could just keep sort of reminding people to keep their trees pruned and.
Yeah, I think that was another thing we talked about in the subcommittee last time, is how this year it's going to be extra important because of all the rain has produced a lot of top-heavy growth on weakened root systems. So this year is like really like the perfect storm of needed tree maintenance.
Okay.
All right. Any other tree issues? Nope. Cool. Did any of the Bayland specific plans get discussed any further, or is that something that can go into the inactive subcommittees, or what's?
Not chapter 6.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
No.
Great.
Gotta catch up.
Actually asking staff whether we need to keep that in the active stuff, or?
I think so. I would like to keep it in the active stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have it on the list yet, so I just added it for this meeting. I wasn't sure if you guys have been meeting or if you would have anything to report out. If you want to keep it inactive at this point in time, I can move it down. If you want to keep it on the list, whatever you prefer. I think we're probably not expecting the EIR out for a while, but I know that, you know, some of you have pretty lengthy content to get through just in the specific plan, as do I. So however you'd like to handle it.
I feel a little unclear about what we're supposed to do with it moving forward rather than just reading it. I'm really unclear about what we want.
Yeah, Mary and I read pretty much all of our sections in order to influence the questions that were asked. Was it the notice to prepare the EIR? Yep, so we used our reading there to feed into that.
Yeah.
But yes, I think I have the same confusion of now what's next and when is the next real opportunity for OSEC subcommittees to provide input.
So we will not be submitting comments on the specific plan until we are submitting comments on the EIR. But because both are pretty lengthy documents, the idea was if you have comments that you want to make on the specific plan, outside of the ones already made on the NOP, you could get them together and then have them available for you to use as you are reviewing the EIR. I don't think there's anywhere necessarily to submit them at this point in time, so we don't really have a deadline yet. It was more just trying to provide you all that additional time that I think you were looking for.
I think we need to read our things and we need to have discussions.
Then I'm going to advocate that we leave them on the ad hoc subcommittee list
Yeah.
so that we don't forget we have to do that.
So can I ask a maybe silly question? Our comments that were documented, what happens? Are they going to incorporate those, or are they going to come back and respond to us?
Comments on the NOP are responded to.
Because there are some big gaps. There were some big gaps.
So
in that NOP.
comments on the NOP are generally, and a lot of ours were focused on things that you want to be covered or studied in the EIR. That's really the point of commenting on the NOP is, I think this might be an issue, please study it in your EIR. So my understanding is that all comments need to be addressed in some way, either in the EIR or if they are not studied for some reason or another, explained why
Okay.
that is. So that's
That aligns
my
with
understanding
what
of the way
my-
it's supposed to go.
That aligns with my understanding, Adrian.
Yeah, I don't expect that someone's going to like come back to this committee
no, I
and
wasn't
reply to
expecting
you,
that, yeah.
but yes, they should be addressed in
Okay.
the EIR, or why they were not addressed should be addressed.
Yeah.
Right. When the EIR comes out, we'll have to go back and look and see if they really
Right.
dealt with
Yeah.
the things that we asked them to deal with. So I got confused because the comments on the NOP seemed to me like scoping, right? It's the scoping.
That is what it, NOP comments are, is scoping.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they didn't call it that, because they usually called it that in the past, but whatever.
Okay.
Scoping usually takes place first, and then when they think they have it scoped out, they produce a document that you comment on, and at that point, that's when you make your notice of preparation, and that's when you make comments of like, I don't think you covered this. You need to cover this and this and this.
So setting expectations, at least for me, one of the big gaps were the definition of open space. That was huge.
That was
Yet
huge.
they had the solar fields as part of that calculation. And so what happens if they don't, if they still will consider that as part of the open space calculation? I mean, how do we?
Comment on the EIR.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the city council really will be, I believe, the one who determines the definition of open space. Just because the Bayland specific plan is calling that open space, that doesn't mean the council will necessarily accept that definition.
Okay.
So this is just the draft EIR?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we take apart the draft EIR
Okay.
and then they
then
come back.
okay.
with the
So we need to
final-
be on
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So at this point in time, we'll just keep them on the list.
Okay.
If you have something that you want to report back on, you'll be able to do it at this time. And otherwise, it'll be there until we need it. And if I have any news about timelines, I'll be sure to pass that along.
Thank you. Well, then, I guess we are done with subcommittees and we are on to calendar items. And let's see, where are we? We're in July.
I'm sorry, I just realized I have a typo or an error here. It says Coastal Cleanup Day is the 16th, and that is not correct. It is September 23rd. So that will be our next Habitat Day. And we also have Day in the Park on October 7th. And then we'll see if the Dark Skies Ordinance is actually on here for August or not. But as I mentioned, we will have a more complete annual report on the building efficiency program next month. And then there have been a couple things mentioned or requested this meeting for agendizing.
Our Dark Skies subcommittee meeting is the Monday after our OSEC meeting, so I don't think we're going to make it.
You're right. It sure is. So that's not happening, but we'll move it back.
We should look at moving that up somehow. I don't know. I really wanted to get it on next month, but we'll all look at the calendar again. I seem to remember it was particularly difficult this time around to schedule everybody, but let's look again and see.
Yeah, I think some of the challenges were around.
Maybe
Yeah.
if we can do a morning meeting, I could dial in
from Belgium.
Oh, it's going to be great. Jojo's there. I talked to him in the morning here. So
Perhaps we can accomplish a lot by email.
yes.
Yeah,
As-
something.
as well.
We got it.
Habitat
got it.
Day was a success, I think.
Oh yeah, Habitat
Yeah,
Day.
it was great. Nice
Mhm.
showing of people and We got a lot of pincushion pulled, a lot of,
I managed to
Fennel
evade the
talk.
camera again.
pardon?
I managed to evade the camera again.
Yay.
My arm was sore. That's all I have to say.
Oh,
We didn't really talk very much about the cow recycle animal report.
So I mentioned in my staff report, we're completing the annual report, the electronic annual report with
Okay.
the consultants that.
So maybe we can
do
look
that.
at that next time.
What they submit is not very.
Are we waiting for Teresa to come then?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's usually what Teresa covers, the parts of that are really interesting. There's a lot in that report that is just very tedious and repetitive from prior years about this program and that program, and this thing is run by the county, and
Okay.
yeah,
We'll do
it's
that. That's fine.
it's a tedious report. So I can probably share it with you when we have it finalized, but I don't think you'll
I
find it
trust you.
helpful unless you need something to help you get to sleep at night.
I trust you. That's fine.
great. Are there any chair or committee member matters?
I have one question. It's quick. The Crocker Trail paving, any chance that coming in under budget where we could use that money for the goats?
Yeah.
Definitely not, because it's federal funding and we had to do environmental studies and we had to tell them exactly the scope of the project and study that. So we told them resurface the trail, possible improvements to crossings, maybe wayfinding signage and benches. So that we, there was, in the master plan, there were suggestions to improve the crossing. So that was kind of what we thought the next step would be. So far, we have had to, that the bid came in under a grant amount, right?
Yeah.
We had not clarified that they needed to trench in the header board 2 inches, so we had to pay more for that. The contractor suggested weed barrier fabric, which we had not thought about, and we paid for that. So, at this point, we had internal reviews of the design, but it didn't come to light kind of until we're in construction that there are some vehicles that go on the trails. I mean, I guess we knew about the dog training facility, and we figured that the owner would, but that AT&T sometimes is on the trail maintaining their phone lines, and the California Vehicle Code has code that says on a recreational trail, any vehicle could be fined or, pretty strict penalties. So there are a lot of places, if you guys walk it a lot, you see that there are access from the businesses onto the trail. And we even use them during the design to drive to a certain spot and take, detailed data. So now we're looking at, and in some cases there are like truck loading yards where they're driving onto the trail because it's easier for them to make their turns, and we don't want that, especially if it gets more use. So we're looking at putting up some barriers, either bollards or natural rock or both, and putting some signage up, and maybe managing the bollards at the entrances are not locked so that our maintenance crews can still drive on the trail even with this law. So managing some of that, we don't have a handle on the cost. And then in some cases, it seems like it's getting wider, so we're paying on the quarry fines on how much they put down. So I'm not sure there's going to be much extra money at all.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
you've had some overruns. I just want to say we need to update our closing picture here with our new intern.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
I saw that this afternoon and then got pulled into numerous other things and forgot to ask Jonna to send me a photo. So
Jonna, send a photo.
we'll get that updated for next time.
So I'm going to join remote for the next 2 meetings, per the way I did it before. So not the emergency rules, but the old school rules. I don't know if that affects quorums, but if other people aren't going to be here, we could mention it to Adrian.
It does. We do have to have a quorum in person to meet. One person being remote not a big deal, but if there are other people who, I think, Shauna, you said you're gonna,
I'm out of town on the 23rd, yes.
just for August.
Just
not-
for August,
okay.
yes.
Anyone else not able to join in August?
Not
Then
at this
we-
time. I'm fine at this moment.
Okay, then we should be in good shape. I think we can probably discuss this offline, but since you will be remote, we may want to consider the vice chair leading the meeting. Jason, you're being catapulted into the chair.
That is the shortest meeting in history.
Yeah.
You'll be dazed at how quickly. So, any further adjournments? No.
No.
I move.
I'll second.
Nice.
Thank you all.
So be it.
Bless America.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have we ever talked about doing a vote by hand instead of a roll?